Hello gamers, this is Sai, and welcome back to Which Way Games. Now why should you be careful when stepping on a fairground ride?
And with that being said, let's get on with the video. So Sai, tell me, what have you got planned for when the world goes back to normal?
Well, visit some places, see some friends, and of course make more videos. You?
Watch more cartoons, as well as searching for some of those hidden gems lost to the sands of time.
And that's £300, please.
What are, for Pete's sake?
Speaking of cartoons, what have you got lined up for the future?
Well, Visionaries, Count Duckula, Inspector Gadget, oh, and Captain Planet, which I'm sure I'm going to have some help with.
Yeah, all good choices of cartoons.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Oh, that's just great. Straight to jail.
Do not pass go. Do not collect £200.
So I'm bored of this game. Can't we play one of your video games?
If memory serves me right, you don't do well with gaming.
Oh, come on, that was one time.
Yeah, I'm not taking that risk, and besides, we need to get you a better outfit. I'm still annoyed that you lost your Thundercats hat.
Blame Samira. Anyway, haven't you got Dungeons and Dragons we could play?
I might do. Let me have a look.
Well, I do hope you have it, because this is boring. Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, it does remind me of that classic cartoon from the 80s, which was inspired by the world of D&D, a fantasy game full of adventure and monsters, and has a massive fan base across the world. But where did it all begin? So as Sai says, let's go back to where it all started.
All the way back in the early 70s, the original Dungeons & Dragons tabletop game was published by TSR, allowing players to create their own characters within the fantasy world of magic and mystery. Each player would embark on an adventure, usually with a group of friends, which of course would be preceded over by a dungeon master who would create a world of fantasy for players to enjoy, as well as being the storyteller for the game to create a sense of total immersion.
This type of fantasy tabletop gaming combined with storytelling was massively popular and was only limited by the imaginations of the players as well as their dungeon masters.
From that first publication, there will be many different versions of D&D, each bringing something new for players to enjoy, as well as improving on some of the elements contained within. In fact, D&D became such a worldwide hit that even some of the success was found within the world of gaming, especially in the arcade.
Obviously, I'll leave the realm of video games to Sai, but coming back to D&D, there are those players out there that are so passionate about this gaming series that the player base is about 40 million and still growing. Now that's impressive, however, as a cartoon guy, I absolutely love the 80s cartoon of the same name, which has become a bit of a cult classic, alongside Jason the World Warriors and Mask.
With D&D having plenty of exposure, thanks to the popularity of the game, it didn't stop the formation of TSR Entertainment. This company knew that the D&D franchise was a golden goose of branding, with plenty of toys, merchandise, as well as more variations of D&D that could be made, essentially bringing in the big bucks.
However, at the time, Marvel Productions picked up the Dungeons & Dragons license in the hope of making an animated cartoon series to bring a whole new audience to the world of D&D.
Dungeons & Dragons the cartoon was created by Kevin Paul Coates and Dennis Marks, but for some reason networks weren't interested in a cartoon surrounding a fantasy tabletop game. So Mark Avania was brought into the mix to see if he could get the series greenlit, and after writing the pilot episode of Dungeons & Dragons, this essentially got the ball rolling. And from that moment, Mark left the project to focus more of his attention on Garfield and Friends.
An amusing cartoon with the world's laziest cat, who happens to like lasagna, but hates Mondays.
No force on this planet is strong enough to get me to go for a walk in the park.
With the foundations laid, other writers would continue to establish what Mark had started. The characters will not only have to deal with the different trials and tribulations found within the realm of fantasy, but also have to make decisions that will put their morals to the ultimate test.
Now, not to spoil anything for future viewers, but there's one particular decision that almost crosses that line from which there's no return. Oh my God! Obviously, with more adventures filled with twists and turns, it wouldn't be until 1983 that Dungeons & Dragons hit the airwaves with a 27-episode run for the fantasy, action and complex storytelling.
Dungeons & Dragons begins with Hank and his friends boarding the Dungeons & Dragons ride at the local theme park. The ride begins with the group laughing and viewing the spectacles found within.
As the group of friends progress further into the ride, the animatronics seem a little bit too real, and then something strange begins to happen.
The very fabric of space begins to warp around the group of friends, and then they find themselves being transported to the realm of Dungeons & Dragons. They're immediately attacked by the fearsome dragon known as Tiamat.
I bet they wish they ran into Falcor from the Never-Ending Story.
Then, as if by magic, Dungeon Master appears and grants the scared children individual weapons, allowing them to defend themselves against the dragon, as well as protecting the lovable unicorn known as Uni. Whilst doing their best to escape from Tiamat, the group soon come face to face with Venger, who, like all villains, immediately attacks.
Venger's only angry because he's missing the other horn to his helmet.
Of course, this backfires when his energy blast is deflected, hitting Tiamat, who then turns her attention on the evil sorcerer. Dungeon Master introduces himself to the children as their guide in the realm of Dungeons & Dragons.
Now, Dungeon Master is one of those characters filled with mystery, never giving the children a correct answer and always talking in riddles, a bit like a certain Green Jedi Master.
Each episode would have its own story, with the children exploring the realm of Dungeons & Dragons, searching for a way home, and getting involved with the inhabitants trapped within this realm of fantasy. Throughout the 3 seasons of Dungeons & Dragons, each of the fantastic episodes would follow a similar formula. The heroes would become lost, Dungeon Master would appear giving them advice, and from that point, action would follow, sometimes with amusing results.
What are you guys staring at?
Now, like most cartoons of the 80s, there would usually be a toy line released, sometimes made by LJN. However, this wasn't the case with the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon.
Simply because LJN didn't have the rights to the characters of D&D and therefore couldn't make a toy line. Dungeons & Dragons was loved by younger viewers who were given a bit of an insight to the world of D&D, and it's a bit of a change of pace compared to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but that's for another time.
Hey, that's my line.
That's my line. Anyway, as time progressed, viewers became less focused on Dungeons & Dragons, and essentially the series was cancelled without the kids ever returning home. Despite the cancellation of the cartoon, Dungeons & Dragons entered that realm of reruns, essentially filling a time slot for Saturday morning cartooning, which is a topic I'll come back to in the future.
As each year passed, allowing viewers to watch the 3 seasons of Dungeons & Dragons, a fan base surrounding the cartoon would start to form. And in 1996, TSR published the Forgotten Realms comic, which featured Hank and his friends all grown up, but still living within the realm of Dungeons & Dragons.
Now, despite this nod to the cartoon, many fans have come up with their own theories and stories as to what actually happens to the children while they're trapped in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. But luckily for us, one of the writers called Michael Reeves actually did write a final episode called Requiem. Now, a fan-made version of this script can be found on YouTube, but with a slightly different ending.
All in all, the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon is enjoyable to watch, with some great animation, decent music, as well as some fantastic chronicles of adventure set within the fantasy realm. Maybe Dungeons & Dragons will get a remake very much like Thundercats, but bring in the lore found within the addictive D&D tabletop games. Perhaps the young group of heroes could traverse into other realms and realities while searching for a way back home. Or maybe a new series would begin with the heroes all grown up, but finding themselves returning to the realm of Dungeons & Dragons.
Cartoon guy, I couldn't find Dungeons & Dragons, but I did find this.
Since where did Monopoly meet Dragon Ball?
Oh, some time ago, as well as other franchises.
I knew this reality was strange compared to mine.
Okay, that's
Anyway, that reminds me, I need to go watch Jason the Willed Warriors. That's one way of avoiding the question. Anyway, come back next time where I take a look at Mario and how important he is to Nintendo as well as the world of gaming. Thank you so much for watching and see you next game.